Welcome back to it. Here we go into the next segment of the program. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, which has provided free legal aid to workers in dozens of cases involving the UAW, like Nissan in North America, Somerset, New Jersey, and NTN Bauer in Hamilton, Alabama, so many more. Mark, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you, Steve. We've got more news to talk about. I mean, always something, that's for sure.
Always something. Here's a little bit of news I want to share with folks. Mark Mix will be seeing me in Milwaukee in person next week. We'll all be there for the Republican National Convention. Mark, you're going to be there. And I want to say thank you to the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation for being our partner in setting up our place there in Milwaukee so that we can talk to the folks right there from the front row. It's going to be very important. Now, let's talk about some news. I actually want to talk about something you mentioned in the break. Senator Hawley of Missouri, very conservative individual, but he's out there as a Republican, a conservative Republican, talking about unions in a way that's a little confusing, shall we say. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, indeed. Senator Hawley from Missouri he was a supporter of right to work a little while back, and then he came out and said he would, quote, and I quote this, Steve, you'll appreciate, well, you may not appreciate it. He says, I would never impose right to work on anyone. And this was a seminal change in his behavior. And when he says he would never impose right to work, what he means is he doesn't understand labor policy that imposes forced unionism on workers. And now he's talking about how Republicans have to embrace unions. And he's right about that. We embrace them by being for issues that rank and file workers like secure borders, lower taxes, Second Amendment rights, those types of things that are attracting rank and file union members to the Republican Party because they're standing up for those issues, not the union officials who are spending 98% of their money on the other party,
right,
and really out of touch with rank and file workers from an ideological.
You seem a little confused by Josh Hawley's comments. Let me clear it up for you. Let me clear it up for you. He'll be running for president in 4 years. And he needs to be able to do both sides of the fence. There, I cleared it up for you, Mark. Now you understand why Josh Hawley is making these comments. All right.
That's why we come on with you, Steve. You figure all this stuff out really quickly, so thank you.
Yeah. Pretty simple stuff. He's running for president, and he's probably a pretty good candidate overall. A little strange in this department, but overall a better candidate. All right, so what's your news today?
Well, we had a hearing on Tuesday where one of our staff attorneys and one of our clients testified in front of a House committee about anti-Semitism in the union movement. We have a bunch of graduate students from MIT, University of Chicago, New York University, City University of New York, that have come to us asking for help trying to get out of the fact that they're forced to support unions that, quote, represent them, but are using the money that they have to pay as a condition of employment to support these protests on college campuses, supporting Hamas and Hezbollah and the whole, denying the attack of October 7th and the reasons for it or whatever. And so these employees have come to us, these graduate students, these employees, these staff attorneys with Nassau County, other employees all across the country saying, how do we get out? And finally, the House brought this up in a very robust hearing on Tuesday in a House committee. One of our lawyers testified. Our client, Will Sussman from MIT, testified. And there's really no response. All the Democrats could say is, yeah, we're against it, but oh well, the unions are doing great things for you, so you still have to pay. It's outrageous.
So the union, the Graduate Student Union, GSU, denied them legally required religious accommodations to union dues payments. And by the way, I want to point out something, Mark. The National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation providing counsel to these folks at no charge. Because otherwise, these are people in college, different places. They wouldn't be able to afford the high cost of attorneys for a case like this. That's where you come in, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We have been blessed by lots of supporters across the country that help us help workers just like this. And you're right. This is an EEOC case. It's a National Labor Relations Board case. And so the actual navigation of the kind of the maze of legal regulations is very difficult for individual citizens and individual employees to take on. That's why we're here. We've got about 250 active cases today as you and I talk on behalf of employees, and we do provide that service for free.
Well, and that's incredibly important because, as I mentioned off the top, you're winning important cases, giving workers dominion over their own lives, right? Their own jobs, their own future, which is incredibly important. I would call it foundational in America.
Yeah, absolutely. The First Amendment of our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, says you have the right to associate. That also means you have to have the right not to associate. You have a right to free speech. We've argued constitutional questions and won them on behalf of workers. And when one person has the courage to stand up and we can take that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, we can win precedents for every worker. And that's the goal here, is to protect workers in their freedom and their liberty, not only to speak, but to associate, and never be compelled to do that, especially with a private organization like a labor union.
You know, Josh Hawley's comments notwithstanding and so forth, and his misunderstanding of labor relations and labor law and so forth, what is the future for the right to work movement? I mean, we know that Michigan became the first state, the only state ever to reverse right to work and basically give that away for a few votes on election day. That's what happened here. Again, political pursuits mess up good intentions and good policies all the time. What about other states? Are other states heading toward doing the right thing for workers?
Yeah, they are. We've got an active program in New Hampshire and Montana and New Mexico and Colorado. We're continuing to push. But Steve, your point is, your last guest, RT, talked about it. I mean, it all comes down to elections. In Michigan, it was a one-vote change, a partisan change in the House and the Senate, and the re-election of Gretchen Whitmer. One of the first bills they introduced in the Michigan legislature is to repeal right to work, to give union officials the ability to force workers to pay dues in order to get or keep a job. So elections have consequences, and that's what this is about. And I appreciate you bringing this fact in front of your viewers and listeners and the opportunity to do that, just like RT did about the oil business. It matters who's in the White House. It matters who's in Congress. It matters who's representing you in Lansing or Madison or Sacramento or Albany. Wherever it is, it matters.
And it matters who represents you if you're a worker trying to go up against a union. You're just one person trying to push back against this big, Goliath union. That's where you come in. So if there's somebody listening right now and saying, hey, I've got a problem with my union, you're here to help them. Tell them how they find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. They can go on the amazing internet at nrtw.org, or they can call an attorney and talk to an attorney for free about their rights in the workplace at 1-800-336-3600.
nrtw.org. Look, if you're somebody that's in a union and you feel like you're being bullied around, which people say, I'm not making accusations, people say that you're being pushed around and you don't like what's happening, or your money's being used for a political purpose, and you're like, I don't agree with that. You have rights as a union member. Not as many as you would have in a right to work state, but you have rights. And that's why nrtw.org is a great place to go, a great resource. Mark Mix and his people take up the armor. They take the slings and arrows for you so you can get on with the business of, feeding your family and so forth. Mark, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, well, Steve, thank you. Always appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and to offer and help to anybody that might be watching that is affected by this type of stuff. I mean, have the courage to stand up, have the courage to fight. We'll stand with you, and we'll fight for you.
nrtw.org. Mark Mix. Greatly appreciate you being here. National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, doing great work every single day. Mark, always appreciate seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you in Milwaukee. Thank you.
All right, Steve, thank you.
All right, there you have it. So, Mark Mix, everybody. And again, I want to thank all the great partners that we have that said, Steve, we want to work with you in Milwaukee to make sure your voice is heard and your program is out there. nrtw.org, one of those great organizations. We thank them for helping us. It's not, let me tell you, it's expensive to go to these events. It's very expensive. And it would have been a bit out of reach if not for partners like that.